Welcome to The Bold Encourager. I'm Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It just allows for me to get my positive, encouraging messages out to everyone. So today, we're going to be talking about Ruth. So let's get started. Happy Walk by Faith Wednesday. Today we're talking about Ruth. We are in a series about the powerful women in the Bible. So we did Esther last week and we're doing Ruth this week. And Ruth is another powerful woman in the Bible that I would like to talk about. She was a widow and she ended up being a very good friend, a faithful friend to her mother-in-law. She left everything she knew to go follow after her mother-in-law and be there for her. And that is a true testament of the type of person we need to be in our lives to others. So I want to go over this particular book. It's actually another reason why she's a powerful woman, because she has an entire book named after her in the Bible as well. As I did with Esther, I will also be doing summaries of each chapter and reading some verses that spoke to me. So let's go ahead and start summarizing each chapter, and then there'll be verses that I will share with you. So chapter 1. We enter into a place when they're in a famine. There's like a huge famine in the land. And Naomi, who is the mother-in-law of Ruth, and Elimelech move to Moab with their two sons. And Elimelech dies, and Naomi is left with just her two sons. Well, both the sons marry two different women, of course. One gets married to Orpah, and one gets married to Ruth. Both Ruth and Orpah are Moabite women, which actually is something that is kind of displeasing to Jewish people because they believe in worshiping other gods, so it's kind of taboo that they end up marrying these women. But then the sons both die. And so Naomi's not only left without a husband, she's left without her sons. So she tells them, both the women, to leave. And all the women are now widows. So Naomi wants her daughter-in-laws to be happy, so she says, go back home to your families. Both of them don't want to leave, though, and so they kind of like go back and forth. And Naomi and say, no, we want to stay with you. But Naomi insists. So she's able to get Orpah to leave, but Ruth continues to cling to her. It's just a great example of what a great relationship these two women have as mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. So I want to read verses from chapter 1, verses 15 through 22. Naomi said, look, your sister-in-law is going back home to live with her own people, and God's go with her. But Ruth said, don't force me to leave you. Don't make me go home. Where you go, I go. And where you live, I'll live. Your people will be my people. Your God is my God. Where you die, I'll die. And that's where I'll be buried. So help me God, not even death itself is going to come between us. When Naomi saw that Ruth had her heart set on going with her, she gave in, and so the two of them traveled on together to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was soon buzzing. Is this really our Naomi, and after all this time? But she said, don't call me Naomi, call me bitter. The strong one has dealt me a bitter blow. I left here full of life, and God has brought me back with nothing but the clothes on my back. Why would you call me Naomi? God certainly doesn't. The strong one ruined me. And so Naomi was back, and Ruth the foreigner with her, back from the country of Moab. They arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. So we see that Naomi's bitter, and she's not happy with God, which is totally understandable. She has lost her husband and her sons, and Ruth is such a faithful friend to her and encourages her through this process. So then we go into chapter 2. Naomi has a relative from her husband's side, and his name is Boaz. So Ruth offers to go to the fields and pick the leftover grain. So I'm going to read Ruth 2 through 4. One day Ruth, the Moabite foreigner, said to Naomi, I'm going to work. I'm going out to glean among the sheaves, following after some harvester who will treat me kindly. Naomi said, go ahead, dear daughter. And so she set out. She went and started gleaning in a field, following in the wake of the harvesters. Eventually, she ended up in the part of the field owned by Boaz, her father-in-law, Elimelech's relative. A little later, Boaz came out from Bethlehem, greeting his harvesters. God be with you, they replied, and God bless you. So then we see that, Boaz has arrived, and he's that close relative to Ruth's father-in-law, and he arrives from Bethlehem, and he greets the harvesters. Well, Boaz then asks, who is Ruth? And he wants to know who Ruth is and what she's doing. And so then once he finds out from the harvester, he approaches Ruth and says, and lets her know his field is the only field he wants her to glean at, and that she can drink as much water as she wants, and he wants her to know she can glean as often as she wants. So Ruth asks Boaz, why do I have favor with you? Why are you being so nice to me? And Boaz tells her he's heard about what she's done for her mother-in-law. So he in turn has given her kindness and shows her favor. So let's read the second chapter, 11 through 12. Boaz answered her, I've heard all about you, heard about the way you treated your mother-in-law after the death of her husband, and how you left your father and mother and the land of your birth and have come to live among a bunch of total strangers. God reward you well for what you've done, and with a generous bonus besides that from God, to whom you come seeking protection under his wings. So I had to share that particular verse because just of what he said. It was just so heartfelt, and it's just a testament of God and how he speaks through people, right? So I thought that was really great what Boaz said. And Boaz lets the harvesters know Ruth can glean as much as she wants and not to leave her alone and not to reprimand her at all. So he's given them Ruth permission to have full access to the grains as much as she wants. So she gleaned until evening, and then she's brought all the barley that she's collected to Naomi. So she brings it home to Naomi, and then Ruth tells Naomi all that Boaz did for her. She's so impressed with his kindness, and she tells Naomi all about it. And Naomi lets Ruth know that Boaz is actually a close relative to them. So then we go into chapter 3. So in chapter 3 of Ruth, Naomi advises Ruth to go to the threshing floor to meet Boaz. She then has Ruth wash up, put on some perfume, put on her finest clothes, gets her all ready to go, gussied up for him, right? And so then Ruth goes and meets Boaz at the threshing floor as she was advised by Naomi. So she's very obedient to Naomi as well. After he was done eating and drinking, he had his night with the boys, So Boaz lies down on a grain pile, and then Ruth approaches quietly. She's very humble, very quietly approaches him, and then she uncovers his feet and she lays at his feet. He's kind of like had a little bit to drink, so he's kind of laid down and he's taking a nap, right? But in the middle of the night, he wakes up and he's startled to find Ruth at his feet. So let's read chapter 3, 9 through 18. It said, and who are you? She said, I am Ruth, your maiden. Take me under your protecting wing. You're my close relative. You know, in the circle of covenant redeemers, you do have the right to marry me. He said, bless you, my dear daughter. What a splendid expression of love. And when you could have had your pick of any of the young men around. And now, my dear daughter, don't you worry about a thing. I'll do all you could want or ask. Everybody in town knows what a courageous woman you are, a real prize. You're right, I am a close relative to you, but there is one even closer than I am. So stay the rest of the night. In the morning, if he wants to exercise his customary rights and responsibilities as the closest covenant redeemer, he'll have his chance. But if he isn't interested, as God lives, I'll do it. Now go back to sleep until morning. Ruth slept at his feet until dawn, but she got up while it was still dark and wouldn't be recognized. Then Boaz said to himself, no one must know that Ruth came to the threshing floor. So Boaz said, bring your shawl you're wearing and spread it out. She spread it out, and he poured it full of barley, 6 measures, and put it on her shoulders. Then she went back to town. When she came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, and how did things go, my dear daughter? Ruth told her everything that the man had done for her, adding, and he gave me all this barley besides 6 quarts. He told me, you can't go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. Naomi said, sit back and relax, my dear daughter, until we find out how things turn out. That man isn't going to fool around. Mark my words. He's going to get everything wrapped up today. And this is kind of what you should expect from a man that is courting you. What he did was everything right in God's eyes, and I'm sure just so respectful of Ruth in every way. Any single woman out there that's looking for their Boaz, stay in prayer and be obedient to God, and he will lead you there. Okay, so let's go on to chapter 4, and Boaz decides, okay, I'm going to go. He did not wait he didn't take any time to waste. He was like on it the next day. He wanted to make sure Ruth was taken care of, regardless if it was with him or with this other guy. So Boaz meets up with the guardian redeemer, and he also brings 10 elders of the town. And Boaz tells the guardian redeemer about the land and asks him if he wants to redeem it. So the guy says, yeah, he wants to redeem the land. But then he has to tell him about Ruth. So he says, but you also have to marry Ruth if you buy the land. And the guardian redeemer did not want to do that. He felt like that would tarnish his name. So he says, I'm not going to redeem the land, and you can go ahead and redeem it, Boaz. So Boaz says, okay, to the elders, you are my witness. And then he says, I'm going to go ahead and marry Ruth and redeem the land. So Boaz marries Ruth, and they have a son. We'll read from chapter 4, 14 through 16. The town women said to Naomi, "Blessed be God. He didn't leave you without family to carry on your life. May this baby grow up to be famous in Israel. He'll make you young again. He'll take care of you in old age. And this daughter-in-law who has brought him into the world and loves you so much, why, she's worth more to you than 7 sons." Naomi took the baby and held him in her arms, cuddling him, cooing over him, waiting on him, hand and foot. So, and then when we get to the very end of the chapter, it talks about how Ruth is part of the genealogy of King David and of Jesus. So she was all part of that lineage. That's what makes her even another reason why she's a powerful woman of God. Just to read this story would give anyone hope. And I love this story so much. So I want to say something about how Ruth was picking up the leftovers from the field. I think that was an example of when we go out there and we share with everybody our testimony, we need to pick up the ones that people have forgotten. There are people that are pretty much shunned by people, that are kind of loners, that nobody pays attention to, that have been forgotten. And they need to be reminded that God cares for them. And so I thought of that example of Ruth picking up the leftovers, the leftover grain. We need to pick up those people that are alone, that are lost, and we need to encourage them on the path. I think that another great part of that story I wanted to share is Ruth was a faithful friend to Naomi, and she encouraged Naomi back to God. And that's the type of friends we need to be to people that don't know God. Ruth was not originally Jewish. She was not a Christian. She didn't serve God. She was a Moabite. And so they served other gods. But she actually was led to God through Naomi. But then Naomi turned away from God because she was so bitter and angry at God for what he had done in her mind, is what God had done. Not seeing it as, what it was. And so she saw it. And when you go through loss, it's like I had told you before in a Monday motivation, that is part of going through loss. That's part of the 7 stages of grief. You can get angry at God, and Ruth's love for Naomi picked her up and took her from the pain. And she stood up and did the right thing for her mother-in-law and showed her a love we need to show everyone around us. When you see people hurting, love them. Love them at where they're at. That's like the most important commandment ever. And I also love about the story is that even when there's loss, God is our Redeemer. And he will restore what we lost. Naomi lost everything. And he restored it through Ruth. He brought Ruth into her life. And Ruth marries and gives her a grandson. And it just goes to show you that he has not forgotten about you, no matter what you've lost. And so I hope that this story encourages you, because this is such a powerful, powerful book in the Bible. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, if you haven't followed me on social media, please follow me on social media. The links will be down below. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will post a new Walk by Faith Wednesday, and you do not want to miss it, so go ahead and hit that notification bell. Well, I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you stay encouraged.